I built a framework that looked kind of like a house. It was readiness. And frankly, it's really, as you pointed out earlier, happiness and longevity as two concepts. So not just living a long time and being miserable, not just being happy and not living a long time, but trying to find that nice mix between the two really is a life problem. Retirement is just a special case of a career transition. And interestingly enough, of the, I think there's 360 people or so that have completed the assessment at this point, many have said, "Oh, I'm not retiring. I'm just in a mid-career transition from X to Y." Sometimes it's, well, I was working and I left to take care of the kids, or I left to take care of an aging parent. Sometimes it's a professional athlete that decided I'm not going to make it in the pros. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to do next. Or a retiring military officer who hit pension age and is transitioning into civilian life. So, but it turned out that for retirement, it's just that special case where you don't really have to base everything on the amount of the next paycheck. It's you get to do some side hustles, and that's really how this started and all it was. But I was living with this framework of happiness in life has a foundation of health and wealth. If you're not healthy, nothing matters. If you don't have enough wealth, and that is very different from person to person. But if you don't have enough health and wealth, most of the rest of this is really kind of not helpful. But if you do, the really structural important variables that kind of determine every day are people and place, like what's around us, the humans, the location, what we can do based on where we live. Do we feel safe and secure in our home? That sort of thing. And then the roof of the house is really a meaning layer. It's the passion that gets you out of bed in the morning and the purpose that helps you answer the question, why am I here? And so I just started digging into each of those things. So I really did have a framework and the definition of a problem because I was facing it in a year or two back when I started thinking about it. And as you point out, I didn't really kind of say, "Hey, I have tech looking for an idea." It was very much the opposite. I had an idea, but I also was at an interesting point in my career, and I had a real front row seat in the industry, given Dell's position in AI servers, to see what was going on in the space. And I just put those two things together.
Yeah, I can't, it's interesting. It's called, to say it, the retirement strategy. I have filed it away in my brain as TRS. Why? Because because retirement is too small a term to describe what it's valuable for. And your situation different than mine. I intentionally left kind of the what I would call the W-2 world in 2019. And I think it stems from, you remember the show LA Law by any chance? So I think it was LA Law. There was a character who he had a Hawaiian shirt hanging on the back of the door. And if it wasn't LA Law, it was some other show, but it was an attorney. He had a Hawaiian shirt hanging on the back of the door, and he would take his suit and tie off and put his Hawaiian shirt on, and he considered himself on vacation. And he might be on vacation for 15 minutes, but he was on vacation. And I was, as a dumb college student, in the 80s, I'm thinking that's what it's all about. But oddly, I don't know if I sort of absorbed that or if it's just my nature, but I've had this saying, always working, never working. And that's just how I've lived my life. People, I'm sure, Dennis, you've experienced this. People will, you've been traveling a lot, Dennis, and it's like, well, I don't know. It's like, how do you answer that question? I was here for a week, and then I was gone for a week, but always working, never working. It's part of that world. That's why I was so surprised that TRS applied to me. And I have eagerly jumped in on the threads as this thing has developed to sort of share that it's like, hey, it's not just about you people who are doing this traditional, I've been in corporate this whole time and now I'm not. What do I do? No, no, no. All of those transitions, a lot of people are going to be making transitions and fine tuning and dialing things in.